Of what?
So Bill, for the
I
boards
motioned and Joe
commissions
seconded. I don't know what time it was.
Like
10 after.
I haven't,
She motioned, Joe seconded.
So,
Well, it was 10
they'll
after
select whatever
because,
board
well,
they're
that
on.
clock
Say
in there's
bicycle
faster.
board.
Use this one.
how often are they
Anyway.
supposed to meet? Which I think bicycle board's supposed to meet every month. How often, do they
Here,
meet when
oh, I
you're
got
supposed
it.
to? They have not met, and then you hit submit.
Not that one. What's the other one?
That's it? That's it, and then what
When
we
can
will
I see
get
It's not best of
our
Morgantown. That's best of.
I tried to beat it.
responses like this.
Best of West Virginia. Best town in Mountaineer Country. We
Just before 5:30.
But it's best of West Virginia.
So your
It's
five
just
didn't work 'cause it was
correspondence.
after
We're not
5:30?
presenting.
And make our
I was just like, I'm gonna come down.
So all the boards will be
At
on
least
this
that's what
side.
Emily said
how
5
You were in
minutes
front
ago
of me
while
by
you were
about
using
100
the
yards, and I
restroom.
saw what you were doing, and I was gonna follow you in, and it didn't work.
And everything you need to know will be done right in the spreadsheet for us.
Oh, well, I mean, I didn't like really, because I was like, I'm not gonna.
We're gonna be here all night. Let's
Okay.
go.
to know how often they meet.
But I thought after our, did,
We're calling this
Oh, well,
meeting
that
to
was it.
order.
But there may be other things more.
All right. All right. This is City Council regular meeting. We're in the Mon County Commission Chambers, 243 High Street. It's Tuesday, April 16th, 2024. It is 7:15. We're calling the meeting to order and asking the clerk if she please call the roll.
Yes. Deputy Mayor Buganim,
Present?
Bill Koecki,
Here.
Wheezy Michael.
Here.
Danielle Trumbull,
Here.
Dave Harshbarger,
here.
Brian Butcher,
Here.
Mayor Celine.
Here. Now we're going to stand to the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we have approval of the minutes. We have two sets of minutes. We have April 2nd, 2024 special meeting minutes, April 2nd, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Unless somebody has some addition or corrections, we usually just approve by acclamation. Anyway, here we are. In favor?
Good.
And now we have correspondence, and we have the pleasure of having some actors from the Morgantown Theater Company here. The production is Honk. It shows this weekend, and we have the assistant director, Sterling Gibson, and others with him who can introduce themselves if they would.
I'll start briefly. My name is Kristen Gertis. I'm the president of the board of Morgantown Theater Company. And we've been around for about 25 years. It's a 100% children's theater company. We've been able to be successful, very much so because of the support of the city through the Organizational Arts Grant, and also the wonderful facility at the Metropolitan Theater. And we have a main stage production is our big program where we have the kids joining here. We have about 110 kids in that. It's over more than doubled in size since COVID, and just filling that need for the community. In 2023, we were able to have over 10,000 audience members see our productions at the Met Theater, and so we hope everyone will have an opportunity to see our next, which is Honk. I am going to introduce Sterling Gibson, who's our assistant director, and he actually is an alum, and he was in Honk in 2016.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today. My name is Sterling Gibson, and I am with MTC. Morgantown Theater Company has been my home for many years now. I actually joined the company, I just did the math, about 14 years ago. So 4 years as an assistant director and then 10 years as a patron myself. And Honk is a very special play to me. It is actually the reason I am in theater. I saw a production of Morgantown Theater Company's production of Honk when I was younger. My sister was in it, and it changed my life. And from then on, I knew that Morgantown Theater Company was the home for me. So what is Honk about? You might ask. Well, let me tell you. So it is an entertaining and mystical tale about the ugly duckling. Hans Christian Andersen, famous fable, everyone knows it, but it is told in a story unlike you have ever heard. So, our main character, Ugly, after experiencing barnyard ridicule, finds himself on an adventure like none other. All the while, unknowingly outwitting a very hungry cat. Along the way, Ugly meets a whole flock of unique characters to find out that being unlike the others is not a bad thing. This heartwarming celebration of being different and also motherhood is sure to delight all with its sparkling wit and memorable songs and story. This will be performing at the Metropolitan Theater on High Street in Morgantown, April 19th through the 21st, Friday, we have a 10 a.m. performance. It's discounted, but we also have a Friday night at 7 p.m. and Saturday night at 7 p.m., and also Saturday at 2 and Sunday at 2. Tickets are on sale right now at universe.com/mtchonk, or you can get them at the Met starting 1 hour prior. I actually have a special treat for you guys today. I have both of our ugly ducklings here with us today. So the reason why there are two of them is because we decided that we could not let Morgantown not hear both of these boys' wonderful voices, okay? So both of these boys have been with us for the past couple of years now, and they have been a pleasure. So it is now with my great pleasure to introduce Lewis and Anthony to the stage. Thank you.
You might make the microphone go down a little.
Just for you.
Yeah.
If they knew just how dearly I would love to honk. But it's true, I'm a bird who seems to lack the knack. I'm just different. I'm just different from the rest. And who can blame them wanting me to find another nest? But different isn't naughty, different isn't bad. So why should being different make me so sad? I'm just different. They're like peas from the same pod. No wonder they make fun of me. Life's harder when you're odd. But different isn't scary, different is no threat. And though I'm still their brother, they forget. I didn't choose to look this way, I didn't want to be unique. I don't like these grubby feathers and I hate my stubby beak. There's a runt in every litter, one black sheep in every flock. But when you know it's you somehow, your ego takes a knock. I'm just different, but I have a sense of pride. My looks may well be funny, but I hurt the same inside. Different isn't spiteful, different isn't wrong. So why is it so hard to get along? I only want to get along. Different isn't hateful, different could be swell. Different is just, well, different.
Thank you all for coming. Next, we have a recognition of the Best of West Virginia Award presentation. And this is an award that West Virginia Living gives out, and it's a, 2023 Best of West Virginia winner. Best town in the Mountaineer Country region, Morgantown. This is very much appreciated from West Virginia Living. I don't know who we can give this. Woo. Which thing is it? I don't know if we can give this to the clerk or we can just pass it to you afterwards. Thank you to everyone who put that together. Next, we have a public hearing. This is a hearing on an ordinance updating the codified ordinances of the city of Morgantown, West Virginia. And this is a public hearing only on this ordinance updating the codified ordinances. It's a sort of a housekeeping matter. So anyway, I'm going to open this public hearing on this item only. Is anyone wishing to speak on this ordinance? Huh?
Yeah.
Talking about the Bartlett House.
No.
No, not yet.
This is a public hearing on updating the codified ordinances of the city of Morgantown. So if anyone would like to speak about the codified ordinances, this is your opportunity.
What do we do? Do we just move that one over here?
This isn't making me noisy either.
Hmm?
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me if I talk like this?
Yeah. Just put that right here and we can share it.
Yours is not.
Apparently not.
Oh, they just
This
turned
one's
up the
working
mic.
now. Oh. Now we're really mic'd. All right, so we have opened this public hearing, updating the ordinances of the city of Morgantown. And now we're gonna close this one, and then we have a different public hearing. This is on this matter only. This is an ordinance authorizing and regulating private outdoor designated areas in the city of Morgantown. This is something that came up at our last meeting, and now it is up for a public hearing before our final reading. So we're gonna open this hearing.
Unaccustomed to this, I am to public speaking. Annie Cronin, York, 7th Ward. I am curious about this ordinance. There are 4 paragraphs in section 953.06, rules B, C, D, and F, which enumerate what can be put in the sippy cups as one goes along with their open carry. Liquor, wine, non-intoxicating beer, and non-intoxicating craft beer. What do you have against regular beer? If somebody's walking around with a beer, they do not fit in here. Would they be arrested?
That's just the
State
terminology state law uses.
But you exclude
It's
beer.
a term of art that means regular beer
But you
in West
specify
Virginia state law.
non-intoxicating
No.
in both
All
places
right.
where you say beer.
We're not to answer, sorry. All right,
So, that is my question. And I suppose that's all of it. Thank you.
appreciate. Pardon to our attorney, sometimes we get too helpful. All right, is there anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? Then we're gonna close this. And then we have unfinished business, boards and commissions.
Mayor, I have a nomination. I'd like to nominate Matthew Misfeld to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Second. Thank you. All in favor? Yep, all right. And then, cannot remember, are there any others for this evening? I don't think so. All right. Now we're to the public portion. This is the public portion, which will be subject to rules established by council and adopted by resolution. And they would be that you would come to the podium, you would state your name and your address. Wonderful.
We don't have addresses written.
Okay. So you would state your name and your address, and you would come to the podium, and you would confine your,
Just
Yes. Wait 1 minute. So you would confine your time to, you can watch the lights in front of you to give you guidance on how much time you have left. And if people would, if somebody before you has spoken on a particular item and has stated the concerns that you have, if you can try to keep if you're stating something the second time, if you can make those comments brief so that everyone gets an opportunity to speak.
I am here in my capacity as chair of the Human Rights Commission to announce that at a not regular city council meeting, the committee of the whole meeting on April 30th, we'll have a proclamation for Cinco de Mayo. And since it's not being done in the regular meeting, it won't be televised and not so much on the record, won't show up in minutes. So I want to know that anybody who cares about Cinco de Mayo, that's when the proclamation will be made. Because to do it today would be 3 weeks too soon, and to do it at the next meeting would be 2 days too late. So Cinco de Mayo is being commemorated to honor our Latino members of the community. Thank you.
They are televised and there are minutes.
True.
We can't hear.
Can't hear anything.
Okay. Let's move this back over again.
I think,
Yeah, she just needs to get it.
I think we just need to.
That's all.
Oh, okay. Could we check and see if the podium is functioning? Right, but then that would mean.
She does speak softly.
I can't really control how people speak.
What's going on?
Well, if we're going to televise, we need to televise with sound.
Yes, I can tell.
So ear up.
Are we sure that's not working, or is she just quieter than most?
It wasn't necessarily.
Yes.
I'm not on the list to
No,
talk,
please.
but I was thinking that maybe we should test it if someone's working on it so that we know if it's being adjusted properly. So if anyone, can the audience hear me?
It's not amplified.
Okay.
I don't know if that microphone is. Some of the microphones are just for recording and
Oh.
some of them amplify. So
So you won't necessarily hear.
should be amplifying. I don't know if that one amplifies or not. So that's what I think they're checking.
The main thing is to make sure that people at home can hear.
Oh, okay.
It does.
Well, it would be nice. Be nice if the rest of us could hear as well.
Or if there's another mic, is there another mic that can project to
Not that we
home
could
as
reach
well
over
as?
there.
We have an AV person, so I think they went to go check with that person. So thank you for your patience.
Perhaps we could borrow city council's
Well,
microphone?
they won't reach.
I think. Okay. So how about now? That sounds good. Okay, great, great.
Thank you.
Name, address.
Yes.
Let's roll.
All right. So I have the rabbi as the first on the list, and I know that you have more of a name than rabbi, but that's what's on here.
Thank you. I'm actually here to represent myself, not the
Yes.
Jewish community in any way, shape, or form.
Yes.
Sure, if you do approach the Jewish community, the saying is, if you have two Jews, you have four opinions. So this is just my personal opinion and my personal feelings. My name is Zalman. I live in downtown Morgantown. together with my wife and my 9 children. I believe that my family is the largest traditional nuclear family in the Morgantown area. I don't know if there's a reward for that, but just to make it clear. I want to tell you a little bit about living downtown. Now, due to the work I do with students, someone tell me when it's 4 minutes. Due to the work I do with students and my religious observance, I need to live within walking distance. And because I have young children, walking distance is very short. So for me, I need to live downtown. That created situations which I didn't think I would get into when I moved to Morgantown in 2007. No, I walk around, I always have Narcan. Does anyone have Narcan on them? Yeah, I always walk around with this. The reason is because living downtown, you never know when I'm going to need to use it. In Judaism, the most valuable thing is life. And saving one life is like saving the whole entire world. It doesn't say which life. It doesn't say if it's a life of an addict, a life of a rich person or a poor person. Saving every life is valuable. And that's why I always make sure to have Narcan within arm's reach. That being said, living downtown exposed me to things that I never thought I would be exposed to. For example, if my kids want to play in my private fenced-in yard, before they start playing, I need to inspect the yard to make sure there are no needles. When my kids look out the window, I have to look out first to make sure they're not going to see things that aren't appropriate. If I set up a video camera outside of my children's bedroom and we made a movie out of it, that movie would be rated R. So that's the situation we're living in. Many mornings I need to pick up trash because we had people go through our trash, and 9 out of 10 times they'll just leave it on the floor. That creates a bad situation. I love Morgantown. I've been here since 2007, and I'm not going anywhere. But as City Council, I ask you, when you make laws, regulations, rules, zoning, whatever it is, take my family into consideration and make sure we can live a happy, productive life. And, I know that many people that are addicted to drugs, it's a mental illness. It's not something they can just snap out of. Just like if someone has a broken leg, you can't tell them to walk. If someone is depressed, you can't tell them to be happy. If someone is addicted to drugs, you can't just tell them, snap out of it, just stop using it. We know that. But that is not an excuse to hurt other people. No mental illness is accepted as an excuse to hurt other people. We have to make sure that all our policies reflect that. It's never okay to hurt other people. One morning, or one afternoon actually, I looked over my fence and I witnessed a young man, had to be younger than 25, and he was injecting what I assume was an illegal drug into a young girl that was sitting next to him. And it was my first time seeing something like that, and it really shook me to my core. The next day, I volunteered at the federal prison. So when I came in, there was still something that was on my mind. So I spoke to one of the inmates whose name is Zoli. He let me use his name for this event. And I said, tell me, how can I help these people? I want to help them. And he said, Rabbi, I know you're not going to want to hear this, but this is the truth. The only way to help them is by making it harder for them to be addicted to drugs than to go into recovery. The only way a drug addict will go into recovery, if it's easier to go into recovery than it is for them to stay on drugs. And he told me that when he was in drugs, he was in some type of halfway house, and he got kicked out because they found drugs on him. So he went to his father's house. He lived in Cleveland. He said it was the coldest night of the year. His father opened the door, saw him, and slammed the door. He told me later that his father cried that whole night, but that was the night where he decided to turn his life around. So let's create those opportunities for our local community. Every person was created with a purpose, and as long as someone is alive, we know that they can be their best. Thank you.
Thank you.
It says that any person.
Yeah, she's already spoken. Lindsay Jacobs?
Can you all hear me? Okay. Hi, I'm Lindsay Jacobs. I live in the 5th Ward. I have a lot to say since we last spoke, however many days ago. Just some principles to kind of kick us off tonight. There are a lot of us. Encampments are the result of a pervasive lack of affordable housing. Until we have low barrier shelter and sufficient permanent affordable housing, we should leave encampments alone. The only way any of this works is by meeting people where they're at. With substance use disorder, with mental illness, whatever the case may be, we have to earn their trust. Whether this offends our white working class sensibilities is immaterial. It's the only way forward. Regarding affordable housing, I'm not an expert, but I'm married to one. My husband, Brennan, put together a list for you all since you asked for solutions last time. Everybody here tonight has a solution. He's a talented city planner. He formerly worked on affordable housing development in Greenville, South Carolina, which is a boom town. He wanted me to relay these 5, he called them reasonable, affordable, doable suggestions. Establish a regional affordable housing fund. You can get funding from a bunch of different sources, and you can produce and preserve affordable housing. It's really flexible, and you can fund a range of activities to meet whatever our needs are. 2, selling public land to help subsidize housing development. You could achieve both of these things by supporting and empowering, this is my opinion, not his, the Land Reuse and Preservation Agency that already exists within the city. The third thing is fees on short-term rentals. This is happening in almost any city that allows Airbnbs. We should be recouping fees when people are allowing visitors from out of town to stay in our housing stock. And you can use the money that we recoup from those fees to help pay for housing for people who actually live here in Morgantown. 4, we can develop an affordable housing strategy beyond the needs assessment that the Bowen organization completed for the city in 2020. So basically that looks like paying an expert to come in and investigate and tailor solutions that are fitting for our community based on that needs assessment. That told us what was wrong, but now we don't have a plan to fix the things that are wrong. And the last thing he suggested was waive permitting fees for affordable housing developers. I met with Commissioner Tom Bloom last week, and one thing we talked about was an incredible organization called Reintegrate Appalachia. They're doing the I Own Monkey Wrench books, which is coming on High Street in July. I'm using Reintegrate. They're my general contractors. They employ people who are recovering from SUD, substance use disorder. I cannot speak highly enough of their work. They're absolutely incredible, and I think they would be an incredible partner to help develop affordable housing in Morgantown. So those are my policy solutions. And now I want to respond to some comments that some of you made last week. Come to us with solutions was one of them, and you don't necessarily see what we do or don't do was something that the mayor said to us. So regarding the first, we're bringing you a ton of solutions, even though that's not our job. That's your all's job to work in partnership with us, but that's what we elect you to do, is to solve problems for Morgantown. Regarding the second, which is you don't necessarily see what we do or don't do, shouldn't we? That should be public knowledge for us. And so this is not a rhetorical question. When you guys report out at the end of the meeting, I'd love for each of you to share what you've done since we came to the last meeting to address the crisis of homelessness and the dearth of affordable housing that we have here in Morgantown. 32 seconds. I hope it's not lost on you that these comments over time from you all start to look like excuses for your inaction. My organization has met with you all. There were sort of marching orders from those meetings, no follow-up whatsoever. Nothing happened. I think a lot of other folks in the room can echo that that's been their similar experience working with the city. The message I'm receiving from you is that you don't own the problem because you think it's unfair that you have to deal with it in the first place. No one twisted your arm to be elected officials in Morgantown, and so we're demanding action, no more excuses. Thank you.
I think we have Marley Unigas next. Yep.
Hey, Marley Unigas. I live in Jerome Park in Morgantown. There are many wonderful policies being presented tonight, and I think this needs to be part of a Department of Housing for the city of Morgantown. Morgantown must take permanent action by creating and funding a housing department. At present, the city has 0 staff dedicated to safe housing regulations and shelter resources for the good of our community. The priorities of the city of Morgantown are found in 2 places, in the budget and in the strategic plan. Relying on third parties to step up with no city support is not policy. Refusing to create a housing department is passing the buck. 2 years ago, after meetings like this one, the city required that the county's only warming shelter make the resources available all winter instead of only when under 40 degrees. Voices from the community, like those here tonight, fought for this stability so that our neighbors would know when to depend on the shelter. The city listened and enacted this sensible regulation, an example of community-driven progress that I was proud to be a part of. Yet here we were this winter with no such requirement in place. De facto, the city requires the public to ask for the same regulatory support and resources over and over instead of addressing the roots of problems and moving forward. Our city's housing policies are piecemeal, so no substantive progress can be made. Without a housing department, we can't work for the future, and the city can't use its resources wisely. Quoting the most recent strategic plan, which expired in 2023, the city pledged to investigate similar cities in how they run and operate departments to see if any best practices can be mimicked locally. So let's do that. Let's look at a fellow Appalachian University city, Knoxville, Tennessee, as an example of how a housing department can be achieved. Knoxville's housing department includes information on affordable housing rentals, services for houseless residents, disability accessibility, dilapidated property redevelopment, down payment assistance, historic building restoration, collaborative partnerships, grants, and more. In short, these are areas where the city could be serving our residents if we started prioritizing housing now. A City of Morgantown Housing Department can look at what resources we currently have at local, state, and federal levels and how we can responsibly plan for the future. This week, the city is in the process of developing a new strategic plan, so let it be a forward-thinking one. You don't have to have all the answers tonight, but take that first step, lay that foundation, and start building a housing department starting in 2024. Thank you.
Leslie Nash?
Hi, everyone. I am Leslie Nash. I live in South Park. And so, like many of the people here, I'm trying to focus on sort of a single area to kind of make this all a little bit easier tonight. What I'd like to talk to you about for the next 3 minutes and 47 seconds is housing first, sort of as a strategy. I think that's something you will hear a lot of people talk about tonight. It's a term that gets thrown around a lot. And as I actually said during my comments at the City Council meeting 2 weeks ago, it is really the only strategy to address homelessness that has been proven to be effective over the long term. So instead of trying to get into, super detailed policy prescriptions, of which there are many that can be fitted to the needs of individual cities and municipalities and urban areas, can and have been across the country and the world, I just wanted to go through a couple of principles and then throw some fun budget numbers at you, because everybody loves numbers when you're talking about municipal policy. So housing first is a huge, an approach to this problem of homelessness that considers that homelessness is first and foremost a housing problem. It is not a problem of individual responsibility. It is not a problem of substance use disorder or mental illness or disability. It is a community problem where you lack sufficient housing for the number of people who need a place to live. It also considers that housing is a right to which every person is entitled and focuses on meeting people where they are, again, regardless of physical or mental disability, substance use disorder, employment, etc. You could go on for ages. So one of the most important things is, again, like I said, meeting people where they are and then having a housing stock that exists for people. So it's things that focus on making sure that households stay housed, doing everything you can to keep people in their homes, and when people become homeless, doing everything you can to get them rapidly rehoused. In terms of sort of more concrete ideas, what does that look like? It looks like having a good, sufficient stock of affordable, decent housing, places where people can afford and want to live. It looks at things like rental assistance, making sure that even people who don't own their homes are able to rent homes that they are willing and proud to live in. Increasing Section 8 housing, increasing Section 8 vouchers, making sure that you have landlords who are able to accept and willing to accept Section 8 vouchers. It also looks at working with and incentivizing landlords to make affordable housing available. And so that might look like the city putting money into affordable housing, into working with landlords, those sorts of things. It also looks at more temporary or emergency measures like the creation of low or no barrier shelters, the creation of housing that has no preconditions. So that means you don't have to be looking for a job. You don't have to be in treatment if you have opioid or substance use disorder. Meeting people where they are to make sure that they have a place to live. I also said I'd go through some numbers. So they have done an incredible number of studies on Housing First programs. They did I believe it was a 5-year study in Canada that had over 2,000 participants in 5 cities of all different sizes across the country that found that overall you were looking at a savings of $1.44 for every dollar invested into Housing First solutions and programs, and that's countrywide. When you look at individuals who are very high need, so they have, people who need a lot of assistance with mental illness, people who have substance use disorder, those savings go up astronomically. So it's a policy that might be expensive going in. As some of our other speakers have said, you have to think ahead, you have to invest, you have to plan for the future. But this is a program that will see huge savings, not just in terms of finances, but also in terms of quality of life, quality of community, the willingness of people to trust their government and trust their community and trust the people who are supposed to represent them and with whom they live. And so, I think, again, one of the things that sort of stuck out to me from the city council meeting a couple of weeks ago was councilors responding saying, come to us with solutions, participate, talk to us, and that's what we're here to do. So I think we've all got some solutions for everybody tonight.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. If we could not as much clapping, then we would be able to get to more people. So some brief, and then let's keep moving here. Sarah Hudson.
Hello, my name is Sarah Hudson. I live at 650 Toms Run Road in Morgantown. The city has an interest and a responsibility to provide ways for our unhoused folks to obtain housing. We saw that earlier with comments for our small business owners. It's in everyone's best interest that we help folks get housed however we can. I'm here to offer not necessarily a solution, but an option that could help. For the unhoused folks who call Morgantown home, who are as much your constituents as any of the rest of us that are here tonight. A tent is often the first step in transitional housing, right? It's the first step to getting folks what you might consider housed. The path to housing is not a direct line from sleeping outside to suddenly having an apartment and everything you need for it. A tent is a place to come back to, a place someone can keep personal items, and a place where someone can find the stability they need to take the next steps in getting housed. When the city is responsible for or complicit in allowing encampments to be torn down, you're doing much more than just displacing people. You're throwing away everything that they can't carry with them. That could be changes of clothes, medications, important documents, and many other personal items that are vital to their existence and their independence. Other cities have worked to support their unhoused communities through offering storage. So for a relatively small investment, the city could provide lockable bins similar to what we use for recycling. Walmart currently sells a 45-gallon rolling bin for $29.96. The city could purchase 50 of these bins for $1,498. These could be kept at a third-party site or even on city property. It'll provide folks with a place to keep their belongings safe and allow them to have the stability they need to make a plan for their housing. Another benefit of such a program is that the service providers of a variety of services could be easily accessible in the same location. Folks could know that their belongings are safe. They could start to collect what they need to move forward. We think about things like getting an ID and what that takes, right? Has anyone had to get a new driver's license recently? You think like a birth certificate, social security card, one sweep, and that's all gone. You have nothing. So having a place where folks can keep stuff is vital in helping them move forward. They could also, in this case, access services to support them in that. Again, I want to be clear, this is not a solution, right? Like we're not gonna do something like this and fix our unhoused crisis here in Morgantown, but it is a bit of a Band-Aid. It's an easy one. It's like $1,500, and it could be an on-ramp. Folks need somewhere stable to store their belongings if they're going to be able to obtain safe and stable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan Smith.
I support Bartlett House. I currently stay there. And I don't think it's right that you guys are trying to shut it down. We need home. and you guys want to shut us down is wrong in every way. That housing needs to stay, and you guys need to do something about it. That's what we elect you for, and that's all I've got to say on this subject.
Thank you. Pam Irvin.
I stay at the Bartlett House as well, and I support them 100%. I moved to Morgantown in 1987 when I first became affiliated with the Bartlett House. I was fresh out of high school, knew nobody here. If it had not been for the Bartlett House, I was scared to death. The guy that I was dating had become suicidal. I had no place to go, so I turned to the Bartlett House, and they helped me get in touch with Chestnut Ridge Community Church, who got me in touch with some college girls who took me in until my dad could get here to get me. If you all close the Bartlett House, I think you're making a huge mistake. Carrie DeMastis, as many of you know, is no longer on the board. I think that is a huge mistake. I speak on behalf of Carrie. I think you all need to bring her back and let her move forward in what she was doing. I understand that some of the board members are sitting on different boards. I think that's a conflict of interest. There was false accusations made against the Bartlett House. I believe that those have been proven to be false allegations. And I ask that you keep the Bartlett House open. Homelessness is not going to go away just because you close your eyes to it. It's going to have a fear that people are going to become more and more hanging out downtown. Cops have been known to burn tents down. A girl that was staying at the Bartlett House, I won't mention her name to protect her privacy, but her tent was bulldozed down while her and her boyfriend were in there asleep. It came within inches of her head. At least at the Bartlett House, you can get fed. They are not mean to us in any shape or form. They are very good to us. They do try to help us get places to live. Many of us have jobs. Well, I personally don't, but many of them do. I had wrote a letter that was supposed to go to the governor. It was submitted on the Greater Morgantown board site. It starts with the sentence that I have a 23-year-old daughter staying at the Bartlett House with me. A guy had mentioned on there's no way that came from a homeless woman. Well, I'm here to tell you today that I'm the one that wrote that letter, and I am staying at the Bartlett House. Just because you become homeless does not mean that you become illiterate. Many have college educations that stay there. Many are working. We had some people come yesterday to inspect, and it was spotless. They do not ruin our laundry or any of the false accusations that were made. There was an accusation made that they put ketchup or mustard on our laundry. They do not. There was an accusation made that if you do not make your bed in the morning, that you do not receive a blanket that night. That is false. There was an accusation made that they come in the middle of the night and pull blankets off of clients. No, they do not. And I just ask that you would keep the Bartlett House open, because I think you're making a huge mistake. If you close it, we said the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning, and it says liberty and justice for all. Well, I'm here to tell you that homelessness can happen to anybody at any given minute. With the way that prices are going up in rent, food, what have you. I mean, it's expensive. I love Morgantown, that's why I keep coming back here. I raised my daughter here. She was born at Ruby Hospital. She refuses to leave Morgantown. And I know it seems like I'm rambling, but I'm really begging you to keep Bartlett House open.
Laura, pardon, we do not have clapping in between, I'm sorry. Laura Davidson, we have a lot of people to get through, and we need to make sure that everybody gets their turn.
Hi, good evening. My name is Laura Davidson. I'm an attorney with Mountain State Justice. I work right down the street. I primarily focus on employment and fair housing cases. Many of my clients are on the verge of homelessness. They get discriminated against based on their race or disability. They lose their job, they lose their apartment, and they have no way to either pay rent or find another apartment. Other people come into our office all the time with horror stories about the police, and we're here to discuss solutions. One of the solutions is to treat our neighbors with dignity and respect. Most of what the city and county seem to be doing about homelessness right now is tearing down people's homes, their encampments, and giving people tickets for homelessness. Criminalizing homelessness actually begets more homelessness. As an employment attorney, I can tell you it's hard to get a job with any sort of criminal record on your, with any sort of criminal record. Setting aside the criminal record, folks can't afford to pay fines. If they're joblessness or they're homeless, they don't have any income. They can't pay any fines. That's not going to get any revenue for the city. For every ticket that we issue, every tent the police slice or tear down, we destroy the very fragile relationships that we have with these neighbors. How can you build trust with these people when the only interactions they have with the agents of the community cause them physical and emotional and material harm? You asked for solutions. One is, have you considered establishing a homelessness court? While our criminal law system is deeply flawed, this is an opportunity to divert people away from jails and prisons and keep their records clean. I'm going to end with just saying this. I'm here with my 12-year-old niece. I take care of her. Her mother has faced homelessness in a different community because of her mental health disabilities. She's been jailed for her homelessness. She's been released from jail with no place to go. I hope that we can come together and start talking about real solutions for our neighbors and be role models for these kids. Thank you.
Katie Lewis. Pardon? What did she say?
They can't hear you when you're talking because they're clapping. That's what Emily said.
Okay, I don't know what we need to do, but Katie Lewis? Usually in these moments, we are listening to each other and we are not clapping in between. And I do not mean any disrespect. I want to hear every single person, every single word, but we have a lot of people to get through, and we're going to have to start gaveling and being rude with clapping. So please just don't clap, okay? Be happy, support each other, but just don't clap. Let people be, because sometimes we've had people have to leave if they're clapping. So let's just not clap so that you can hear the next person and we can keep moving. I'm taking lots of notes. I would like to listen to each person, and if you can't hear me call the next person, it just makes it awkward. So if we could just hear what Katie Lewis has to say, I'd really appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Katie Lewis, and I'm a resident of Morgantown. I live in the Suncrest neighborhood near Suncrest Middle School. I'm an immigration attorney here in Morgantown. Housing is a human right. Our city needs to do better at removing barriers and hurdles for people to access safe housing. This access to safe housing needs to include all individuals, regardless of their race, gender, national origin, LGBTQ identity, families with children, people with disabilities, and immigrants. I work with some of the most vulnerable people in our community, immigrants who've been victims of domestic violence or human trafficking or have fled horrifying violence in their home countries, including many children and families. And many of my clients have or are experiencing homelessness, and they face some extra obstacles in Morgantown. For example, I've been told by a client that they were denied access to the Bartlett House because they did not have proof of their immigration status. Another family whose primary language was Spanish was unable to fill out an intake form that was only in English and no interpreter was provided. A community member later had to help the family so they were able to complete the paperwork. Many of our clients are not literate in any language, and many understand only limited English. Safe, affordable housing is a common need among my clients, and many of them have extremely insecure housing situations, and there's nowhere for us to refer them in Morgantown right now to access secure and safe housing. Our city needs to do better to remove barriers and hurdles to get people into housing, including immigrants and non-English or illiterate individuals. Everyone should be able to access shelter regardless of their national origin. Making sure there are appropriate language access tools available is a basic and not complicated thing to do. There are language lines and many translation tools available. And making sure there are safe housing options is critical and is lacking right now. Thank you.
Thank you. If Jenny Richards would come up, please.
Hi, my name is Jenny Richards. I live downtown. I'm a licensed social worker in the Morgantown community, and I'm also part of Project Rainbow. I come to you as someone who loves unhoused people. I work with them. I'm friends with them. I care for them so deeply. As you can tell, there are several of us in this room that feel the same way. When the community comes together and cares for each other, amazing things happen. There's a quote I see floating around online sometimes that says, "I don't know how to explain to you that you should care about other people." If you don't care for your most vulnerable neighbors, I don't know how to tell you to get there. All I know is that the only way we are going to solve homelessness in our city is by coming together and working together. Even if you don't like them, even if you don't understand them, even if you hate them, the only way we're getting through this is by making a change together. You have heard some awesome solutions tonight, so I won't repeat them to be brief, but I hope you listen to them and deeply consider them.
Thank you. Audrey, is it Sima or Sima? What is it? Sim, sorry.
I live in a Bartlett house too. I was considered disabled a long time before that, but I broke my leg and I was arrested for being homeless. So I just think that people need to work more together about other people. That's about it. Thanks.
Thank you. David Ball.
Well, my name is David Ball. I'm a resident of Bartlett. Give me 1 second. I'm houseless, not homeless. It's through circumstances, not choice. This is one of the issues this council needs to address, how to differentiate between circumstance and choice, provide options for both sides. Being a resident at BHS, Project Rainbow was established in part to provide safe haven, something Bartlett was supposedly having ongoing issues with. Late fall of last year, I witnessed a resident endure homophobic slurs. The resident who spoke those words was immediately banned. To me, this is progression, not regression. My viewpoint of the narrative being presented, it's just my viewpoint of the narrative being presented. There's an individual on the Bartlett Housing Board of Directors who also works on Project Rainbow's Board of Directors, who is aware of this situation. We have conflicting narratives and interests that need to be addressed. As a long-term resident of Bartlett House, transparency, accountability, and honesty should be addressed to ease all residents' fears during uncertain times. And now I'm going to read a letter from a resident. Bartlett House Solutions has provided me with a warm bed and shelter through the winter and all the rainy, cold days and nights. It is also a safe, stable house. The staff are friendly and will help any way they can while at the unit. The community definitely needs their services to continue in Morgantown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron Sheldon.
Hello, my name is Erin Shelton. I am just here today to once again remind y'all, as someone who works with unhoused folks, what a huge failure it is that we have so little to offer our unhoused neighbors. Our folks don't have so much as an unlocked bathroom to go to downtown. people in the community don't want to see people being homeless and struggling with mental illness and substance use disorder, but where do you expect them to go? The drop-in center that they once relied on to find safety in bad weather conditions has been shut down, and the only general shelter in our city is looking at having to close its doors. As homelessness grows in our community, this city treats them with less dignity and respect, leaves them with less safe places to go, and refuses to prioritize initiatives that might help them. You can promote affordable housing, past source of income protections, quit criminalizing homelessness, and all of the other great solutions that people have recommended here today. You could allocate resources to ensure that there are shelter beds available for our unhoused neighbors going forward. These are proven ways to address homelessness and keep people safe. We have all these people here today, service providers and community advocates and other people who care, who are here to show you that we want to see something changed. We see what our unhoused neighbors are going through, and we are some of the people who love them, try to keep them safe, laugh with them, cry with them, and grieve them when they are gone, often because of the lack of resources that they have here in Morgantown and the conditions that they're forced to live in. It's time for you to have some humanity and do your part in helping our unhoused community members.
Danny Ludwig.
I'm Danny Ludwig. I live in South Park. I'm really irritated, actually, because I hear a lot of stuff, and some of it's good, and some of it's like, what? I've seen city council members out in the community and board meetings trying to do things. Not everybody, but I've seen it, so thank you for that. Appreciate it. As far as Bartlett lost their own funding. That's their fault. That's not the city's fault. The city didn't do that. The city's not shutting down Bartlett. Okay, so let's just make that very clear. And a lot of people in this room I've never even seen on the street. Only a handful of us I've actually seen in the community doing something. I'm here. I'm in the community every day. Every day. And I'm trying to do as much as I can, but I'm one person. I can't do it by myself, but we can do it together. 100% we can do it together. People have talked about solutions, so let me just throw out a couple solutions. Public bathrooms, because it's not only unsheltered people defecating downtown. I drive Uber on the weekends because I don't make enough money at my job, but I love my job. I see college kids pissing in the alleyways. I don't hear nobody complaining about that. Drunk, okay? So bathrooms that people can easily access. Let's see what else. Lockers. If we had a locker that somebody could put their, important documents in that's not going to get ruined in weather, instead of them carrying around in bags or in tents that are getting thrown away, that's a solution. I think that's a good idea. There's other cities in West Virginia that do a day-by-day program where there's grant funding that you can get to pay people to clean up trash or do other things in the community that needs to be done. I know a lot of people that would work for $20. Shit, I'll work for $20 because I'm a paycheck away from being homeless. I'm a single parent. If I don't work for a week, then who's going to pay my bills? Nobody. So I'm going to be on the street homeless. I'm also someone in long-term recovery, and I'm also someone that has a past. And people in this community use my past as a target, a reason to bully. I'm not here bullying nobody. I'm here to help. I'm here to try to make a difference. I love Morgantown for the most part. I raised my kid here. She goes to school here, and she's an A and B honor roll student. She does well. We have a home right here, right across the bridge, right here by Bill, actually. I see him outside all the time. I know that people are trying to do things, and I appreciate that. But we need more people to come together to do things. If we're not part of the solution, we're part of the problem. And I see a lot of people that are part of the damn problem. Social media is a damn devil. I hate the forums. They suck. I hate Facebook. It sucks. I hate it. It's ridiculous. People are mean, hateful. What happened to love in people's hearts? There is none anymore. There is none. And it makes me very sad. But like, I'm in the midst of the fire with people, trying to help them battle their mental health, their addiction, their unsheltered situations. Not everybody homeless is a drug addict. Let me make that very clear. Not everybody homeless is a drug addict. There are people that have mental health problems that can't stay in housing. One of the guys pulls his box around all the time. He was in a house fire. He won't even go in. So what do we do for him? You know, there's other people that have the same kind of problems. We can't fix it. We don't know what to do. But if we come together and work as a continent, then we can come up with a solution. And I'm willing to sit at any meeting. And if I have to come here every Tuesday meeting, I will. I mean, y'all want help? I want help. People want help. We want help. So let's sit together and talk about it instead of this.
Thanks. And Alice Meehan. She can't hear you. Hi, Alice.
Hi, Ms. Mayor, and everybody. Thanks for having us here today. In my view, I'm Alice Meehan. I live 888 Vandalia Road, Morgantown. You all know me anyway, and I know you too. I am here. This is homelessness, unsheltered folks who are unsheltered. Our citizens is my primary number one problem as far as our community is concerned. I am going to focus on camping tonight as one solution to address. In particular, the model that they're using in Wheeling. Wheeling just opened a camp. Are you all aware of this? The camp in Wheeling. Okay, so why a camp? As Danny was just saying earlier, some people don't want to go indoors. Some people are afraid to go indoors because they've been abused or any number of reasons, mental illness, other disabilities, but there are citizens and they deserve basic inalienable rights. So it's time for us to bring back humanity and to be addressing this for everybody in our town. So the camp, just to explain, the actual, our pit count in January, our point in time count here in this district was 284 in January. The actual number is probably twice that. If we were to do a count in July, it would be double that. So we're looking at, 500 people, but that's in a whole district. Most of them end up here, or Clarksburg or Fairmont. But in any case, we're not talking about battalions of people. Some folks living outdoors, like I said, don't want to go indoors. They fear indoors at this point. They have no rules imposed upon them, and they feel safer. They don't have to be rejected. They don't have to be traumatized by being told to get out or by having their camps torn down. So I'm sure some of these folks play kind of a hide and seek, trying to avoid having their camps and their belongings taken. So everyone deserves to live in a safe, stable, nurturing environment. For some of these folks, that happens to be their sleeping bags and maybe a companion. So we can do better than that. By the way, this happens to be National Child Abuse Prevention Month. It's national. So I've heard a few stories about from people, from unhoused, from people who have no home, who grew up a little bit faster than they should have. So I do try to get stories out of people. I try to connect And through that connection, we really can help and we really can make a difference. So, so the place in Wheeling, they opened a camp, they found property. Oh, shoot. They found property that was state-owned and converted it into camp with dumpsters, porta potties, and everything else they might need. Thank you. Thanks for being here for us.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that's wishing to speak? Yes, please.
Sorry, I showed up a little late. Just say my name and then go for it?
Your name and your address.
Oh, so true. All right, can we hear me? Yep, cool. All right, I'm Malin Sadler. I live on West Run Road over behind the hospital. I'm a student here in Morgantown. I usually say I'm running for House of Delegates, but today I am not here as a politician. Instead, I'm here far more concerned with my neighbors and my fellow West Virginians. I know that you guys wanted solutions, but I think one of the big ones that I recognize and many of my student counterparts and peers recognize is that the city of Morgantown does not recognize these people as people. That once we attach the word homeless on it and we can't collect property tax from it, that we've forgotten who they are. So for the rest of this, I guess I will refer to them as West Virginians because that is what they are. So as a student and as a resident of Morgantown for the past 4 years, I have seen many West Virginians on the streets. And while being here in this town alone, I've come to learn that a lot of those people have actually been stand-up citizens and part of this community for years, and it just so happened to fall in hard times. I think that the way that we have treated them, the way that I have seen police remove them, the way that we have essentially not have enough housing for them, especially as some people pointed out during the winter. Do you know how cold it is getting out here? You know how awful it is? I think it is absolutely insane. So the solution that I would like to see as a student, as a fellow West Virginian, is to see my neighbors treated with respect and given the same amount and care and attention as any other tax-paying individual here. I know that we could find a solution and definitely find money for it because as a student, I sit on SGA and I hear about all the wonderful things we're doing in this town and all the things that we're building and constructing. And I would like to say that I would prefer individuals to have a place to live and grow versus some new condo complex down on Beechhurst. I would rather see people be able to live and get back to their lives rather than seeing us clean up Morgantown and make it a walkable city as if it is not already. I would like to see these things instead of watching small businesses get shut down because we're bringing in new buildings and whatever else and all this construction. I would like to see West Virginians treated like West Virginians and remember that they are individuals. I would like to see some type of public housing funding coming out of this and some type of actual department that is over this. Because the reality is, everyone said it, and they could say it again and say it a million times because the truth is the truth. This doesn't go away just because you ship them out, just because you close down their doors, just because you make it impossible for them to stay in a place, doesn't mean you're not going to be in a place. Doesn't mean this issue goes away, and doesn't mean that West Virginians are going to figure out how to handle better deal with it. I mean, come on. We need to be figuring out how to be dealing with this now. We are dealing with opioid issues. We are dealing with housing issues. We are dealing with academic issues, and people over there just lost 160 jobs. So we have people, and we need to be ready to help them in case something does happen. I've got a minute left, so like I said, I'm Malin Sadler. I'm a student here, and I care about people, and I would like to see that example be led here to remind us that the people that we have voted in and the people that surround our students and the people that people in SGA look up to and all these other individuals know that we're actually helping people, know that we're actually caring about them, and not just saying we provide some resources, but we can do only so much. No, help is not some enabling thing. Help is help, and there's never enough of it. We could always use more, and especially when people's lives and living is on the line. So, like I said, I would just like to see, and many of my counterparts and other individuals in this area would like to see West Virginians treated like West Virginians and cared about. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, anyone else who's wanting to speak, be sure that you're speaking about something that hasn't been spoken about before. Appreciate all of your comments that have been suggestions for things that could be done. Is there anyone else wishing to speak say something new, say something quickly. I realize that you may not have gotten a chance to sign up, so I'm trying to be open and make sure that anyone else that came in late that wants to say something, please feel free to step forward and just say, yep. If you want to say something, this is your moment. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Wyatt Andrews. I'm originally from Wheeling, but I live in Morgantown now as a college student at WVU. The first thing I'd like to say is that originally being from Wheeling, I'm sure many of you are aware of this, but the Wheeling City Council a couple of weeks ago passed something that functionally made being homeless illegal, and I can tell you from a fact, having many relatives that still live there and going there often to visit family, that the houseless issues have not gone away. Making it harder for people to be houseless does not mean that people can't be houseless anymore. All that it really does is it makes the problem worse, and it has people being punished. People have brought up tents being slashed and burned. It has people being punished and even sent to jail in some cases for something that oftentimes they have no control over and really are just innocent in the matter. And then I'd like to talk about, there seems to be this narrative that the houseless crisis is, to middle class people at least, there seems to be this narrative that the houseless crisis is going outside and having to see houseless people, or going outside and having to feel empathy, I guess. And that's not what the houseless crisis is. The houseless crisis is that we have these innocent people living on the street because they've just been failed by our society. So I just think it's really gross, oftentimes, the way that houseless people get talked about. These are people. These are people that are suffering, and sometimes even, you know, in the winter, people die on the streets because it's too cold outside and they have nowhere to go. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, is there anyone else that would like to speak, or we will wrap this up? Wanting to make sure that nobody goes home feeling like they wish they had spoken and they didn't get a chance, so feel free. All right, we're going to close this. Now we are to a consideration of approval of a second reading of an ordinance updating the codified ordinances of the city of Morgantown, West Virginia, and the first reading was 4/2/2024. Ryan Simonton, if you would just briefly describe.
Aren't these under consent agenda?
Is it?
Yeah.
Oops.
We have both of them under.
Take that back. All right. This is consent agenda. We talked about this at our last meeting. We are just going to read through these, and if people want to keep this on the consent agenda, we will just be voting up and down on this item since it was talked about at our last meeting. Consideration of approval of a second reading of an ordinance updating the codified ordinances of City of Morgantown, West Virginia. The first reading was 4/2/2024. Item B, consideration of approval of a second reading of an ordinance authorizing and regulating private outdoor designated areas in the City of Morgantown. The first reading was 4/2/2024. So this is a consent agenda, so unless somebody would like to pull one of these items off, we'll be just voting up or down. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. The clerk will call the roll.
Yes, Mayor. Deputy Mayor Abu Ghanem,
Yes.
Bill Kolecki,
Yes.
Louise Michael,
Yes.
Danielle Trumbull,
Yes.
Dave Harshbarger,
Yes.
Brian Butcher,
Yes.
Mayor Saleen.
Yes, passes unanimously. Under new business, we have item A, consideration of approval of the rates of levy laid by the City of Morgantown and approved by the state auditor for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, in accordance with Chapter 11, Article 8, the West Virginia Code. Ask if our Finance Director, Kevin Tennant, would step forward.
Good evening, Council. This is the final step of the 24-25 general fund budget. It will officially set the rates for the July 1st property taxes. These rates were used to determine the property tax revenue that's already been approved and has went to the state. This is just the official laying of the levy.
Is there a motion to approve, and then we
Move
can
to approve.
discuss? Thank you, and then, does anyone have any questions? It's a pretty standard item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
So if the clerk would like to call, unless anybody has anything, the clerk would call the roll, that'd be great.
Yes, Mayor. Deputy Mayor Buganum,
Yes.
Bill Kawecki,
Yeah.
Weezy Michael,
Yes.
Danielle Trumbull,
Yes.
Dave Harshbarger,
Yes.
Brian Butcher,
Yes.
Mayor Celine.
Yes, passes unanimously. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of items. One is that I really appreciated those who attended the Norwood, the open house for the upgraded and renovated Norwood Fire Station. I thought it was, I was really impressed with the work that was done. It's functional and it's well organized, and I appreciated the baby box blessing and what that represents also, and in terms of compassion and concern. The other thing that I would just update you on is that I went through and reviewed the project tracking form. We talked about that strategic planning. We're making some changes on that so that any comments by any updates by city staff will be the one that's shown first, instead of having to go do a drop down box. So it'll be a lot easier to use. The other is, I brought it up in staff meeting yesterday, that we need to keep those updated, and I intend to utilize that as several of you mentioned, and I'll highlight those and send a few of those out to you. So you don't have to read it every time, but I think it gives you a really good idea of what's going on in the city. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Report from our city clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report tonight.
Report from our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. As you noted and Councilor Harshbarger noted, the private outdoor designated area ordinance does just track state law. The beer is permitted as well as other drinks in the district. The council's adoption of that ordinance will submit it to ABCA for review. The city's permit applications are now open for participating businesses in the district, and I believe that committee will first meet to review those applications on April 30th, with the district started to begin operation on May 15th. We are working with Code Enforcement Department to adopt local provisions to the building code, working with Development Services to update site plan review procedures, the Fire Marshal to update the alarm systems ordinance, and the city engineer to provide by ordinance a process for authorizing public improvements, in part to track the recent passage of legislation that allows government agencies to negotiate price when a competitive bid project comes in above a maximum budgeted amount. Those ordinances should be forthcoming in your April or May committees of the whole. That's all I have to report this evening.
Thank you. Report from council members. Weezy Michaels, would you like to start?
I have nothing.
Thank you.
I'll be brief. I appreciate the tour of the Norwood Fire Station. Happy to say that the baby box that was put in, that was something that a resident had reached out to me for, so I was glad to see that happen. The second one in the state, I think 180th they said in the nation, was the numbers they threw out. I'm also allowed to now start talking about June 24th and the great race that is coming to Morgantown. We're one of, I want to say 15 stops from Kentucky to Maine, which is going to feature 180 classic cars that stretch back 100 years in age. Thank you as well to Ms. Mazzarelli and Damian Davis for helping with our neighborhood sign that should be getting put up here shortly. And then lastly, I was happy to see everybody that was out downtown for the culture fair this past Sunday. I had several students that were running their own little tables. Particularly, everybody was talking about how great the baklava was from the Palestinian table, and those were the students in my homeroom, which was sold out when I got there, so it was a bummer. And I move on to you, Bill.
Thank you.
No problem.
Just to address the audience here for a moment.
thank you for your commitment and your interest. We as a council have just been through a strategic planning session. We went back and we were looking at what had been done and what we hoped to do. What you had suggested was very much part of our conversation and is on our list. And we looked at some of our past accomplishments, and we have addressed these in numbers of times in various ways. There's no one magic cure. There is a community that will come together and deal with these problems. And if we do that cooperatively, there are things that we can do to, what's the word, lessen the circumstance, perhaps. We don't know of any cure, and I don't know that anybody that I've talked to that can come to us and give us one that will automatically solve all of the problems. But we are aware of them, and we are attempting to deal with them. I don't know what I can do to convince you about that, but other than tell you, we hear you. It's not the most pleasant thing to be sat here and sit here and listen to people accuse you of not working when you're doing the things that you know you can do and get done. But we are working towards it. It's a good council. You ought to be helpful. You ought to be thankful for them. That's as much of my report as I have.
Thank you. Few upcoming, the Woodburn Association of Neighbors will meet tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the Woodburn Community Complex. I know the name of it. And I met today with a downtown stakeholder and some city staff. We did a walk along different parts of the Deckers Creek Rail Trail. We are planning a community, I don't want to call it a cleanup, it's a beautification day on Celebrate Rail Trail Day on the 27th. There are a lot of events that day, but early that morning we are going to get together and clean up some of the trash. We are going to remove some of the dead knotweed that is still hanging out along the trail, and we are going to do a bit of painting over some graffiti along like the green fences. So if anyone would like to join with that, my husband better be making a graphic about it now as we speak, and I'll be posting about it soon. Yeah, we did strategic planning. It was interesting. We'll see what comes out of it. I'm interested to see what the consultant has to take away from our 7 different voices that aren't always in unison, but are sometimes. What have we done over the last 2 weeks? Well, I, for one, put out, and I'm sure several of the community members who are here today to speak know, I kind of missed it last week, but once a week I tell people exactly what I've been doing and who I've been meeting with and have conversations with. I put that out on social media. What comes to mind is we had an H3 advisory council meeting where I had the opportunity to not only speak with other H3 board members, trying to follow up with some other organizations throughout the state who run temporary and emergency shelters, but also looking at what the future of that Bartlett House space in Hazel's House of Hope is going to look like, who may take that over, if Bartlett House is going to keep it. There was apparently also some confusion about some of the residents that live in some of the apartments at Bartlett House and who will continue to maintain those apartments. So those are things that we are working on. I met with some city staff and the mayor last week, and we discussed the idea that I've been throwing around, that now is exactly the time that we should be talking about that winter warming shelter. And I stand firm in my belief that we should provide funding and put out an RFP in coordination with the county and other municipalities to ask for proposals, because last year, or up until a month ago, that was something that Bartlett House was doing this winter for our community. They've done it in the past, and it is my assumption, based on their current situation, that they will not be doing that moving forward. So we need to figure out what that is going to look like, where it will be, and who is going to run it. So I think that I won't say as a city, I think that as a community, and I do hope that people, I know that one of the speakers said that they met with a county commissioner last week, and that's very encouraging to me because it is a community issue and we need buy-in from the county and the other municipalities here. There are, I can tell you, there are plenty of homeless people, unsheltered individuals who are not only in Morgantown but throughout the county. So we really need to come up with a comprehensive approach. I also had several conversations with people in Wheeling and Alice and others about the approach that Wheeling has taken. I am friends with the mayor there, and he was in Morgantown last night, so we have been in touch about how that has gone in their community because it has had to move a time or two as they run into different issues. I would like to try to avoid that in our community if we can, so trying to figure out what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong and how to best optimize something like that if that is the future that our community is going to take or even temporarily take. So just a few of the things I've been working on over the last 2 weeks, in addition to celebrating the eclipse and my birthday and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I'm sure there's more that we can go into, and I'm happy to have a personal conversation. I share my email address, my phone number. My address is on the city's website, unfortunately. So anytime anyone would like to chat.
Thank you for pointing out this is a community issue. It's not a Morgantown City issue, but a community-wide. The county, the municipalities in our county all need to come together on this. And a couple updates I have. Councilor Trumbull mentioned, and I didn't know about the beautification the morning of April 27th, but
We're just now working on it.
that's great, because also on April 27th, the Mon River Trail Conservancy is holding the annual handmade market on the rail trail from the amphitheater down through the Wharf District, late morning throughout the afternoon, with local artisans selling their crafts. Part of the proceeds go to the rail trail. There'll be music, food vendors. It's a fun family event day, so that's Saturday, April 27th. Also, the section of the rail trail from the Arboretum to the edge of the Star City city limits, which is the asphalt going to Cinder. So the asphalt section, it's 1.5 miles, is scheduled to be repaved within the next week through the month of May. So there's about a 5 to 6 week window. It's a DOH project, so MRTC has little control over exactly when it occurs and if it'll be shut down and for how long, but at the end of May, we should have 1.5 miles of new paved rail trail.
Where was that again?
Towards the end of the Arboretum through Star City to where the pavement ends on the trail as it goes north. And also would just like to put out, we had a Morgantown Utility Board meeting last week, and we thought it might be a good idea in the near future to have MUB come and just give an update on the Westover project, maybe an executive session, and ahead of time, they would like, if there are specific questions that we might have, to provide those ahead of time. And so just be thinking of that, and you can certainly provide that to me if you have any thoughts as to what you'd like answered around the Westover potentially coming into MUB. And I'd like to thank the city staff for the planning session on Friday and Saturday. It was fun to get together in a less formal environment and be able to just speak and get to know everybody better, so enjoyed that. And that's all I have.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody who came to speak tonight. I do think that it's part of why we got elected and our responsibility to listen to what you have to say. And I think there's always stuff that people come up with and say that we don't agree with and we may not like and we may think is not necessarily on point. There was some of that tonight. I mean, it's unfortunate. There's a friend of mine who has passed, and we did a lot of work to try to make sure he was protected and advocated for. And that's kind of why a lot of us were upset about the things that we were hearing directly from my friend who is now dead talk about happening at Bartlett. It wasn't about defunding Bartlett or defunding a shelter. It was about protecting people like my friend. And I am so glad to hear that people are having good experiences there. And I do hope that that continues and that they can continue to receive funding. I was happy to work closely with the executive director when she was the executive director, and I'm still happy to work closely with the board president. I think a lot of us do and appreciate the board's work as it's currently constituted and anybody who's willing to work on these issues. Moving on from that. In terms of, I guess, what I've done in the past 2 weeks, I spoke with Rosemary, though, in Wheeling, just to ask about Life Hub, their homelessness coordinator that they've hired out there, who is also, I believe, directing Life Hub, and the managed camp situation there. I think that Catholic Charities is a really great partner, and has been in Wheeling. Has been out here for efforts that we've done before here too. And I think that there's a lot of those agencies that are located in our region that could be really great partners for the kinds of things that we would like to see and take care of, like an RFP for a warming shelter, if we engage them appropriately and treat them with respect. Some other things, I've reached out to counselors in places like Asheville, and I've also recently had a call with the Fairmont Morgantown Housing Authority with Crystal Caruso. We had a discussion a little bit about how voucher available housing sometimes is removed from availability due to disrepair. And then it becomes a situation where whether or not the landlord wants to get it fixed up in order to have it rented on vouchers, or if they can somehow get it rented to someone else. The other situation that we end up in with voucher availability is that often these apartments are ones that landlords don't want to rent to anyone else. And they feel the only people deserving of them are unhoused people. So so our unhoused neighbors end up living in substandard housing in certain instances. So what could it look like to incentivize that kind of activity? I think Crystal has some good ideas. I think it's something that we need to all kind of come more to the table on. I was glad to, we're trying to organize more meetings like that, and Councilwoman Trumbull and the mayor also indicated that they would come to a meeting like that. I believe we have it scheduled for May 16th right now to meet with some subset of service providers. It's not every single person, and it's not every single decision maker. It's probably a bad idea to get every single decision maker or person that is working on the street together. At least it has been in the past. So instead, the people who, I think on this council that other members of council feel like they can trust with handling the issue, and also are interested in handling the issue, I think we can try to have more focused meetings like that and try to come out with solutions and address the very things that you guys are talking about. And I think there were some great ideas and some low-hanging fruit that we could just definitely just do. And it's, it's just an ordinance. It's a thing we can put on the agenda and pass it. I am thankful for everybody's comments. Even, like I said, even the ones I don't agree with. It really wasn't that long. So I appreciate it.
I expected it to go long.
I appreciate everyone who spoke this evening. I realize that this type of meeting is not the easiest type of meeting to navigate when you want to have a heart-to-heart conversation and you want to kind of rally with each other. It's the type of meeting that we have when we're having our formal meetings. If we want to have some informal type of meetings in small groups or some other kind of ways to deal with this issue and ways to deal with each other, that is perhaps might be a more satisfying way to meet than to sort of just have a one-way conversation either direction. And I know that some of you after our last meeting like this were not satisfied with our answers. This is not going to be an issue that there's just going to be a really fast answer, as been mentioned earlier. I have spoken to a lot of people and worked on pieces of this issue. I am in hopes that people like Bartlett House will either continue to serve or that location will serve. I'm not an advocate for any particular solution. I'm an advocate for solutions that work. So anything that we can do to work together to come up with solutions that work, solutions that are long-term, solutions that yield results that help, that would be great. So we will continue to work toward coming up with some solutions. And as been spoken here earlier, this is not just a city of Morgantown issue. This has to be a regional issue. It has to be an issue of the political entities that are right here. We have very small city limits. We have other cities in the area. We have a county in the area, and we need to work on this issue together. And I have a weird segue to another issue, which is people placing campaign signs on public property. And so where I happen to live, if I see a sign near in public property that's clearly public property, I simply pick up the sign, lay it down. Sometimes I don't know the candidate, sometimes I know the candidate, put something on it so it doesn't blow away. So if you're a political candidate and you see a sign and it's pulled up and laid on the ground respectfully and has something on top of it, consider if you have asked a property owner to place that sign there, or if you have put it, say, in a traffic circle or somewhere else that's public property that's not, or in a park that's not designated as a place where we're putting up political signs. Just be sure and ask a friend or a neighbor in that area if you can place your political sign there, and have at it. I have plenty of them in my yard. I'm sure I'll have plenty more in my yard, and other people do too. But if we have them at all the stop signs it blocks vision, and it's not fair to the other candidates because it's just not allowed. So anyway, you'll find your sign picked up and put down if it's near me, and I'm not meaning any disrespect. It's people that I would vote for and people that I won't vote for. There used to be someone that wrote letters to the editor about political signs. There seem to be a lot of them this year, and I know they're necessary evil. Just think about where they're placed so that people can see when they're coming up to intersections and so on.
The state put out a press release that they're going to fine people. They're going to take their signs back to the office, and if you want your sign back, it's a fine.
Ah, well, maybe I should just be calling the state. And I also wanted to mention the International Fair, which was very well done and had lots of participation, and it was nice to see people from the university, people from the city. Thank you to our deputy mayor, who was manning one of the booths, and college students and high school students. And there was a lot of good cooking, which was really neat, and a lot of people that were just comfortable and talking to each other and enjoying the nice day. I also appreciated our strategic planning and the effort that went into it, both on council people's part and on administration's part, to make it a success, and look forward to finding those issues we can agree on and getting to work on them. We do not all always agree, but we all, I think, work hard to keep the public and the public interest in mind. And you all were definitely thought of in there. That's enough for now. For now. Is there someone who wants to read us into executive session?
To West Virginia Code Section 6-9A-4B9 to discuss matters related to the acquisition, development, or improvement of real estate in the area of Morella Park. In addition to pursuant to West Virginia Code Section 6-9A-4B12 to discuss matters protected by attorney-client privilege.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes? Okay. Thank you all.